We've got our new moon in Leo. Uranus goes retrograde. Mercury moves back into Leo. My friend, we've got quite a week up ahead for us in this week's sidereal forecast. We're going to break all of that down and more. Hey, 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 my friend, welcome back to Sidereal, keeping it real with Sidereal, for your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. Danny Singley's here. If you are new, welcome. We are so glad that you found us here. If you are returning, hey, my friend, it is great to see you. We are going to break everything that you need to know about Sidereal Astrology down for this week, September 2nd through the 9th, is it? No, through the 8th. Through the 8th. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down. I'm going to share my screen and let's dive in. All right, my friend, we can see here with our sun, our state. You know, I always like to do a state of the stars. So here's our state of the stars. We've got our sun in Leo. We've got our moon here in Leo. We've got Mercury out of retrograde in Cancer. Mars is over here, just at its very beginnings as it entered Gemini last week. We've got Jupiter at 25 degrees Taurus, Uranus that just went retrograde in Taurus. We've got Chiron retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Pluto retrograde, and then we've got Venus over here in Virgo. So let's break this all down for you, my friends, starting with the sun. So I want to start here with the new moon because it's kind of going to encompass most of what I want to say here about the sun and the moon. So first off, you can see we've got the conjunction happening here, which is what is a new moon. A new moon is a conjunction between the sun and the moon. It is making an aspect to Saturn. So we've got the sun and the moon, this new moon, in opposition to Saturn. Now, it is exact at 8:56 p.m. Central Time on the 2nd, September 2nd. That is when it will be exact. And we can see here, though, it's already starting to form. We're about 4 degrees away here as we look at this on September 2nd at 12 p.m. So with the sun opposite Saturn, we see restrictions and hardships here. We see struggle. We see overcoming limited belief systems, conditions, behaviors. We see that it's a little bit harder to maybe express ourselves. There's kind of a little bit of a dark cloud kind of coming over. Our energy tends to be a little bit lower, which we tend to have a little bit of a struggle with maybe even self-esteem. We kind of want to break free from the burdens and the responsibilities. This can be a very demanding time. And so outside of the new moon, this aspect is going to be here in play for a couple of weeks. We'll see this all the way through September 13th. So there is a little bit of a feeling of a little bit of like a dark cloud. That's what I often say when we're talking about oppositions with Saturn. It can feel a little bit like that dark cloud. The really positive aspect of this, because I am an optimist and I always try to see the good in every situation, is that in particular with the new moon, I want you to think about this new moon in particular, reminding you that a new moon is an opportunity for a new cycle, a new beginning, a new way of maybe stepping into something. And so if we look at this opposition as in it's showing us these limitations, it's showing us these boundaries, it's showing us where we have imprisoned ourselves, my friend. Isn't this a beautiful opportunity to recognize those limitations? Because sometimes those limitations, tell me if I'm wrong, my friend, tell me if I'm wrong, we don't always see them. We don't always see them until something happens or they get smacked right into our face and we're like, ooh. I know I've been there. I know I've seen it happen to me during the Mercury retrograde period, let me just say. I didn't know, I didn't realize this limitation that I had on myself and that I put myself in. And I was very excited for the awareness of it. Now, was I excited at the moment that it happened? Was I excited for like the next day? Probably not. However, it gave me a great awareness of something that I didn't realize I was limiting myself with. And so this is an opportunity with this new moon to look at those areas where you might be limiting yourself around visibility, around being seen, being heard, being understood, allowing yourself to lead, to be the leader, to be the guide. I know many of you that either watch these videos or listen to the podcast because y'all talk to me, and I love it when you talk to me. You can talk to me here on YouTube. You can talk to me over on Instagram. Those are my favorite two places to hang out. You talk to me, my friend. Talk to me. It's you. I know that you have a mission. You have a purpose to help others, to raise the consciousness of this earth. You came here for a reason. You're a healer, you're a coach, you're a small business owner, and you have a vision of bringing something into this world. And my friend, so you are a leader. You are guiding people. Even if you don't consider yourself that right now, my friend, you're still guiding yourself. Yes, even on the days when it's a struggle to get out of bed, even on the days when all the doubts and the fears come around, you are still leading yourself, right? And so use this opportunity with this new moon to allow those limitations to come forward, to allow them to show you where you have limited your capacity, your ability to be a leader, to be creative, to step up in being seen, heard, and understood in your unique way. My friend, this is a beautiful new moon to allow yourself to release yourself from that. We also have the autumn equinox coming right soon, which is around our full moon. And so I want to emphasize to you here that allow yourself over these next 2 weeks, because this is the lunar cycle. This is why I love the lunar cycle. These first 2 weeks are the opportunity to start moving towards your intention that you set under the new moon. And then the full moon is an opportunity to look and reflect back, like, okay, what have I, what steps have I taken? What has come up for me? What has been challenging? Where have I missed the mark? Do I need to reassess and readjust things? That's what the full moon allows you to do. And then it allows you to release any of those old expectations and step on to a new path if that's the case, or commit to the path that you chose for this month, or adjust it if that's what's needed. And then you take the next 2 weeks of the cycle to do just that, to get into action in this new way, in whatever it is that you're adjusting here, to end that cycle and begin a new one. So I invite you to allow those limitations to be shown to you, my friend, and see them for what they are. See them as, what are those called? Signposts? See them as signposts of like, oh, this is where I'm stopping myself. This is where I put a limitation. Here's where I might have imprisoned an aspect of myself, so that when we get to that full moon, we can let it all go as we enter this new season. My friend, we're about to enter a new season with the new vibes and a new energy. I already hear it because it's, September 2nd and September 1st, all the fall stuff seems to come out, which we don't actually start fall for a couple of weeks. So my friend, this new moon is such a beautiful one. I encourage you to allow the limitations to be seen, to be shown to you. Ask for them, invite them, so that you can move forward. Okay, well, let's dig in some more. All right, so we've got this opposition here. This is our new moon energy. Now let's talk about where our sun is going to be. I'm sorry, where our moon is going to be over the next few days, as well as another conjunction that I want to bring to your attention that happens later this week on the 5th with Jupiter. So the sun is going to make a square to Jupiter, and this one's going to last again another couple of weeks. I wanted to bring this one to your attention because this is still kind of happening here with this sun opposite Saturn. So the sun square Jupiter, there is a little bit more discipline here. We tend to focus on one thing or get really, let me just say, we want to focus on all the things. We want to overdo it, but this is actually showing us some discipline, some moderation to kind of pull back so we're not wasting energy, we're not scattering ourselves. And so I'm going to invite you to kind of pull it in here, pull it in, that's a better word, pull it in here. It's almost as like you're wanting to kind of scatter that energy out, and this is really like, let's just bring it back in. Let's just bring her here. Don't try to overdo it. Don't try to push yourself, because there is a bit of a tendency here to want to kind of fight with that idea of overdoing it and like underdoing it. Overdoing it and underdoing it, right? And so it's like trying to help us find that medium, which is this is really good, right? Before we enter autumn equinox, which is again about the balancing of things. So this is another opportunity coming with the squares of showing you like, where am I doing too much, and am I focused on the right things? Am I too, is my, I don't want to say vision too big, but am I thinking of it too big? Because sometimes I saw this on Saturday when we did Sacred CEO. Sacred CEO was an opportunity for us to sit down and reflect on the past 30 days, to release any energies around, right, the last month, and then to vision for the next month and what it is that we as CEOs of our life and our business, what we want to do, what we want to call in, what we want to focus our energy in. And a lot of the times it's like we want to focus on all the things. And so really bringing it in to what is the one thing that I want to focus on, and what is the next task to get me there, the next smallest step. We are not cars. We don't go 0 to 60, right? Oftentimes we want to look at that big picture of I want to do this or I want to get this. And that is great. I love that. And I want to stay in that energy, and I stay in that energy. And I also know that there's certain to-dos that I really need to work on. Maybe that's habits that I want to focus on so that I can get to this thing that I'm looking for, because it's in the habits where we actually get the things that we desire. That's how we actually complete our goals, or achieve our goals, I should say. Okay, so let me talk to you about where the moon is going to be outside of our new moon in Leo, which takes place on Monday the 2nd. So we've got Leo here starting off our week. We've got Tuesday in Leo, and then on Wednesday, we're going to shift from Leo to Virgo. So Wednesday through Friday, in the early parts of Friday, first half of the day, we're going to be in Virgo. Now, Virgo is an earth sign, so we're moving from the new moon in Leo, which is all about action, being seen, being heard, right? Really like out there type energy. And then Virgo is all about perfecting and really bringing it into a plan. So Leo is so creative, so you might feel like there's some creativity and you're really feeling that vibe of like, oh, I got this really cool idea and I have this thing. Virgo's going to be like, all right, let's take this and let's put it into a plan of action, or more so, let's put it into a process or a system of some sort that's going to serve us. So you might even look at over this next week of like, as we move through this next month, because we are changing seasons this month. Usually by now, right? I know back when many moons ago, when I was in school, right? We are all in school by now, right? Labor Day is usually that week where all the little kiddos are in school. So there's a change in our schedule. And so because of that, we're gonna have to start looking at like those changes to our routines. And so this is really kind of helping us begin to do that here. And again, we're going to be moving to Virgo halfway through this month. So you'll hear more about that when inside the September overview. That'll be this week. All right, and then next is Friday through Sunday. So the second half of Friday all the way through Sunday, the moon will be moving through Libra. And Libra is an air sign. It is all about that harmony and that balance. And so this is a really good time for, there's a lot of mental activity, so researching, brainstorming, looking at ways to do things, also partnering with people or connecting with people in that way is also a beautiful thing to do during the moon in Libra. Okay, let's move on to Mars, Mercury, and Venus, because Mars, Mercury, and Venus are all doing some things this week. So we've got Mars here, who moved into Gemini last week. And so one of the things I still want to point out that we are seeing here is this square over to Neptune. That square over to Neptune we saw come in last week. Remember, I talked about it, it kind of lowers and weakens our energy just a bit. There's things that are coming through that's more uncomfortable. So if you had been going really strong, I've actually heard a couple of my clients, they've been going really strong and they've been doing things, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't know if this is right, and there's the doubt, and then the fear, all of that starting to come in, and that's a lot of this energy with Mars and Neptune, and a lot of the energy that we're seeing with the Sun and Saturn coming in as well. So I tell you all of this, my friends. So if you if you feel some of that coming through over the next week or two, that is definitely why. I know I have been sleeping quite a bit, which I normally sleep a lot around the new moon, but I've been sleeping even more the past couple of days, just needing more and more sleep than normal. And that's, again, it's because of these transitions here. So if you have been feeling extra tired, it might just be this energy is really weighing on you. Okay, let's go into Mercury, because there's a couple of things happening here in Mercury that I want to talk about. So we've had these connections here pretty much through most of last month, and they're happening still into this month. But the thing I did want to talk about is right here on the 4th. Mercury is moving into Leo. So Mercury in Leo, let's talk about what that is, because Mercury in Leo can be a little bit more big, grand confidence. Because Mercury is our thinking, it's our communication, it's our perspective, it's how we're seeing, processing information. When it's moving through Leo, thinking is more confident and more grand. It's the bigger, the better. So the focus now is the big goal. The grander the goal, the better. It wants to achieve the big thing. So if you're finding that like you're wanting to maybe make this big thing happen, that's probably why, because Mercury wants to go big. Details are not important here. Leo, doesn't really care so much about the details. It's more about the thing. It wants to have the experience. It wants to do the thing. It could care less about details. Now, at the end of the month, when we move into Virgo, that's a whole other story, because Virgo loves the details. It wants all the details. There might be more expression here, even more theatrical. Around this, like our talking and our storytelling, and we want to like get people into our world in that way. Also the spotlight more on ourselves and our thinking more on ourselves, and like, how is this affecting me? And how am I working with this? And how am I doing this, right? A lot of that kind of thinking as well. We can also, because Leo is such a leader and is very influential, I often like to think of Leo as like an influencer. I don't know why. It's just the vision that I tend to get sometimes around. If it's not Leo the lion, it's like Leo the influencer, and I get that like influencer vibe. And so there is more of a persuasive influence here that we see with our thinking and our communication. So you might maybe be more convincing than you normally are, or more persuasive with what it is that you want. But there definitely is more of this confidence when we speak and when we write. And the other thing here is when it comes to listening, so Mercury does, part of communication is listening, right? We normally don't think about that, but communication does involve listening. Leo doesn't really care to listen unless it's about itself. Then it wants to hear it. So you might find that criticisms or feedback is a little bit harder for you to take, and you might want to push it away. You might not want to hear it. And other people might not want to hear it, just saying. Okay, let's talk about Venus, because Venus is also has a transit that we saw last week that is going to end, actually ends today, but so you might have seen this over the weekend. So let me tell you a little about that, and then I want to tell you about Uranus and Uranus going retrograde. So here we go. Let me share my screen again. And we've got Venus right here. And let me tell you about the opposition here with Neptune that we talked about last week. We saw this here with Neptune, and it's going to end on the 2nd. So if there were relationship problems, financial, like things coming in financially that were like, if there was some dreams, interesting dreams that you might have had, or maybe falling victim to something, whether that was a belief or idea or a situation, or being extremely generous, that could also have been the case over this weekend. So I always say with dreams, make sure that you have a dream journal, that you are documenting your dreams, so you can go back and look at the themes or the patterns of what is coming up, because there's so much in those dreams. And you probably also may have received messages, not only in the dream world or the dream state, but even outside of that as well. All right, the last thing I want to talk about here is our Uranus in retrograde. So we've got Uranus right here in Taurus. So Uranus is our planet of rebellion. He's the one that wants to go against all the norms, so to speak. He wants to do his own thing. He wants to really just be his unique self. As a matter of fact, you might have heard me say this before, but Uranus actually rotates on its belly. It's the opposite of all the other planets. It literally wants to do its own thing. So Uranus goes retrograde from September 1st all the way through January 30th of 2025. So we've got, 4 months of this period for Uranus. So this retrograde occurs in Taurus, and Taurus is associated with our money, with our values, with our physical possessions, material security, wealth. And so it's encouraging reflection on how we are managing our money, how we are, looking at our own values and the things that we value, the sense of self that we have, our self-worth, the things that we physically have in our world, in our own material security. So this retrograde is inspiring us to reassess the ways that we make money. How are we making money? What are our spending habits? What are our financial priorities? I know one of the things for a long time that was a struggle for me was only making ends meet, because in my mind it was like, I just need to pay my bills, and was not really thinking, which is really interesting because I was in the financial world for 18 years, but money was just, it was just kind of a thing for me. I had a different relationship with it then. But making my own money on my own in my business, it kind of shifted things for me where it was like, I just need to make it up to pay my bills, and wasn't thinking about the retirement aspect of it, wasn't thinking about the savings account aspect of it. And it was very much on the I just need to pay my bills. And so expanding that idea, like realizing through it was actually through a retrograde period. It wasn't Uranus, but it was through a Mercury in Taurus retrograde that helped me really kind of see where my patterns were, where those limitations were for me. So this is a really good time for you to take a look at that. Now, as a collective, right, because this is an outer planet, as a collective, we can look at and examine, because these things may be coming up, some changes in our economy, some changes in the systems of our economy, some changes in our digital currency, right? Digital currency is a huge thing right now. And so we might see some of these things maybe shift or change, or some of the trends changing with working from home. The nomad lifestyle, the digital nomad, and the ways that people are earning money through these digital sources. We might be seeing some of that shift or change during this time as well, or might like take a bit of a pause as it starts to regroup itself for something even different come January next year. Well, actually, we'll say February next year. Again, my friend, retrogrades are always an internal time to reflect on what is working and what isn't working, so that when this goes back, when it goes direct again, that we have the opportunity to say, oh, okay, here's some things that I've noticed, and here's some things that I'm going to change, right? It's an opportunity to then integrate some of these changes that maybe we aren't even seeing that we've done through this year. Think about this, my friend. We're in September. This is 9 months of the year that we've already kind of been through. What habits do you have around some of the things that Taurus rules, right? Money, values, possession, material security, wealth. And look at that area of your life and see, what might need to change as we move forward into the new year. All right, my friend, this has been your Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of September 2nd through the 8th. I do want to make a quick announcement here that starting this week, Magic Monday has moved to the YouTube channel. So you will see a playlist now here on Keeping It Real with Sidereal. If you're listening to the podcast, come on over. If you did not know, I do have a podcast as well called the Cosmic Mystic Podcast. You can find it here on YouTube and all of your other favorite podcast platforms. Magic Monday is now on the YouTube channel. You can find a playlist here. Magic Monday is something I've been doing inside my Facebook group for a very long time, and I decided to take it outside the Facebook group and do it over on YouTube so that everybody can benefit from Magic Monday. And so Magic Monday is an opportunity for us to clear out the past week, to clear out what it is that we don't need, and get really clear and focused on what it is that we are calling in for our week ahead. It's a beautiful opportunity through somatic breath work. We also receive a divine channeled message from the Akashic Records in guidance for whatever is coming in, whatever we're inviting in, or whatever we need to know for our week ahead. This week, it was all around our new moon in Leo and about community. So I definitely recommend checking that out. We've got our September overview coming out this week on the podcast and on the channel. And then we also have a new portal coming on the end of probably either next week called the Inner Sanctum. It's coming soon. Lots of good things going on this month. Our full moon somatic breath work on the around the autumn equinox. So be sure to subscribe and follow for more weekly Sidereal Astrology forecasts, Magic Monday, and any links to anything you can find down in the description box and show notes. All right, my friend, that wraps us up for today. Remember to keep shining your unique light, and take a breath with me. Take a deep breath with me, and let it go, and find peace, my friend. Bye.